wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends forever, strengthening the ties that keep us together.
It's time for another conversation. This is the Making It Last podcast with your host, Noreen Daly. This time around, how can we improve our relationships with our coworkers? And I have with me Avery Thompson, the Assistant Director for Distance Education at Northern Caribbean University. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now, just before we started this recording, she wondered why her for this particular topic. And listeners, I'll tell you why. People talk about people having energies and some people call it a vibe or whatever it is. But one of the things that I've always admired about this lady is that whenever she's around her coworkers, in whichever space she is in, there is a certain level of mutual respect. People feel quite comfortable around her. And when I thought about it, I said, this is somebody who I believe she has mastered the art of being able to coexist with people of varying, and I mean varying personalities. So,
thank you.
Yes. Hence why I asked her to speak on this topic. And somebody who's been working for quite some time. Yes.
Yeah, quite years.
Yes, quite some time. So, Avery, how can we improve our relationships with our coworkers?
Well, I know that one of the things that I do is I take time to know what each person's about. How they reason, how they think, how they deal with conflict, how they speak to each other, even the times they come into work, what their family's like, what's home, what their background is, even the month of their birthday, because sometimes personalities change for everything. I have ended up working with offices that have just women. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell you that when I stepped in there at first, I wondered if this was really going to work because I prefer having some men. Mm-hmm. But essentially we got along. And one of the things that surprised me, one of my travels, was that I decided I was going to buy perfumes for everybody. And when I came back, I handed each one the one that I got, thinking of their personality.
Wow.
And they decided that they were going to check and see if the other person's own was more suited. They ended up taking exactly what I got for them, saying, no, this is the one for me. So I could tell who liked floral, who liked fresh, it was from knowing them and being able to figure out how they reason. I guess I look at each person as if I were put in their shoe. Mm-hmm. What would I like? Mm-hmm. How would I like to be spoken to? How would I like to be related to? Mm-hmm. And if you're a person that likes space, you get space. If you're a person that likes to be hugged, I hug. But I think that's part of my thing. I put myself in your place.
Okay. There's somebody listening and saying, I am not at work to make friends. Why should I take the time to know people?
No matter how you look at it these days, you get the maximum accomplished as a team. And if you decided to extract yourself from the team, then it means you're going to have to miss or Mr. All to get something done. So whether you like your workmates, yes or no, is irrelevant. You actually need to get along so you can get the maximum accomplished. And sometimes the one that's ahead of you as the boss may be looking for somebody to bring up. And the only way they can bring somebody up is to know that, hey, even if you didn't particularly like being, this friendly thing, you can work with individuals because if you're going to be a boss, you're going to have to still work with individuals. So sometimes just being promoted is just from seeing how you relate to those as your coworkers.
Yeah. You said take time to know people. Any other?
I also wanted to look at what I wanted out of it.
Okay.
Did I want to be selfish? Did I want to be friendly? Did I want to be concerned? Did I appreciate you? I found that a lot of persons don't appreciate what other people do. And so they will say thank you to somebody they think that's important or significant. But they forget that the person who does some of the trivial things you couldn't get along without. So for me, I'm just as appreciative of my boss as I am of the person who cleans the floor. I know the name of the persons who come and clean the office. And I check on them and their family also, because everybody works together. No matter what it is, all of us contribute to each person's well-being.
Interesting.
And another thing I'll say is don't gossip. Sometimes people gossip, and with gossiping, you tend to tear down rather than build up. I think that you need to see how much time of yourself you can actually dedicate also. And be positive. Positivity is attractive. And hopefully in Jamaica, it can be a little more contagious. So that people can actually stop going to the negative all the time and try to see if you can find a positive even inside of a negative. If you're sick one day and the next day you're better, you realize how fortunate you actually are.
Oh, true.
And if you had a cold one day, you couldn't breathe, you couldn't taste your food, the next day and you can taste your food, it gives you a new appreciation. So I think that if persons turn and try to be a little bit more positive, there's a lot of stuff we can accomplish.
True. And just in case somebody got distracted just now while listening to this, the reality is that we spend a lot of our time at work.
We do.
So
More than you spend with your family most times.
yes. So we want to ensure that the environment and the climate is healthy and not toxic and
Exactly.
and you know, emotionally draining. Any more tidbits you'd like to share?
Learn to collaborate and how you deal with conflict. Sometimes you're having a disagreement with someone. It doesn't necessarily mean that the person has something against you, but they may not like the way you reason. And there's nothing wrong as mature people in sitting down and trying to figure out where can we compromise on this? Where can we figure out who thing? And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. It's not everything in life, even with your coworker, that you're going to agree with. I'd also say that if you have time to schedule in to meet with that person who may not necessarily be annoying, but you may not know very well, you know, sometimes you can just bring a cup of, they might like chamomile tea. Hey, offer a cup of chamomile tea or something like that. Be sympathetic to the persons when you see somebody's face down. Typically, people don't look down because everything is happy in their life.
Right.
And without being nosy, you can just check to find out if there's anything you can do to ease the situation. But I believe, as I've said before, if you put yourself in other people's place, it's a wonder what you can actually accomplish.
Yeah. You said several things, and a few of them I'll just highlight while we're wrapping up. You said you should take time to know people, and I'm paraphrasing something you said just now, is make the time when you see somebody probably going through a rough time. You basically should pay attention to everybody. There's some of us who have a tendency sometimes that we'll pay more attention to those who we believe we can get something from, those above us, rather than just trying to remember that everybody has their own contribution to make to the overall running of an organization.
Yeah, the ladder has an up and a down.
Yes, it does. You mentioned also that we should definitely make an effort not to gossip, be positive, and when possible or most times just try to compromise. You know,
Yes.
Sometimes is there anything else as we're wrapping up that if somebody says they ain't got nothing else, is the one nugget that you'd want them to get from this conversation?
Funny, I didn't mention this one before, but learn to laugh. There's nothing like a good sense of humor and being able to spread something that can break tension. So, I mean, have a few good jokes that you can actually spread and that everybody can laugh, have a good belly up, and think you'd be surprised how you clear the atmosphere and you can move on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. How can we improve our relationship with our coworkers? It was a conversation with Avery Thompson. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
And I trust you got an answer to that question. Until next time, this is your host, Noreen Daly, on Making It Last podcast, where it's all about how we try to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people.
You loving me, I loving you. mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.